by default.
So normal, if you just turn on Wirecast, everything being equal, you're supposed to get your feed.
Just to get your feed. So the only thing now is to take this out.
But don't put this first.
Okay.
You need to go and get your stream key. Because when you restart the stream, it's going to generate.
Okay, so that's the stream key you want to get from.
Yes. Yeah. So this
Joseph,
one,
you are disturbing us.
change anything.
The URL should not supposed to change.
Yes. So you copy that. Go to your Wirecast.
So Roland, can you mute yourself, please? Okay, so I've dropped the link on the chat for those of us that for those of us that haven't set up our lab. Okay, so let's go on with today's class. So talking about information gathering, which is like the first phase in every cyber attack chain. So this is like the first step. It's also known as reconnaissance, right? So this is what whether you're an attacker or a defender, you are into the offensive or you are into the defensive, right? Every project starts with information gathering. You are trying to gather information about your victim, so that you can spot their weakness, you can know their strengths. That is basically the high level definition or the reason why we are doing an information gathering. So, and funny enough, right before now, I used to think that it's one of the, it's one of those phases that are not too required or not too important. But over time, I discovered that information gathering is like the most vital phase when it comes to cyber attack, because the amount of information you're able to gather determines how successful your attack will be, right? So if you gather information and you're not able to spot any vulnerability, that means that you cannot exploit it. That's just the literal meaning. So attackers spend so much time, even be like for a year, spend so much time observing a company's assets, technologies, the services that are running on their environment in order to find a way to exploit them. So let's go on to see what it's all about. So just please, if you cannot hear me, let me know. So that's okay. So these are the 6 ethical hacking phases, right? Like I said, the first one is reconnaissance or information gathering, right? Where you as an attacker or as a cybersecurity professional, you are trying to gather as much information about the victim or your target. It could be passive, it could be active. So passive in the sense that you are trying to look out on all public available assets or information that we have out there to see what could be relevant, concerning your target. For example, let's say for First Bank now, you want to carry out an attack against First Bank. The first thing you have to do is to go out, gather as much public information, public available information that we have on First Bank, or any of whatever your targets may be. You want to gather as much information. For example, the technologies that they are using, the staff, you are trying to gather email addresses of the staff. You want to look on LinkedIn to see who's, for example, the CEO, the list of staff that are working there, to see if you can, conduct like a social engineering attack against them. So, and like I always say, it's not just about the technology that a company is using, it's even more about the user, right? So if an attackers are not so much concerned about your technology, they are more concerned about how they can compromise the user, because they know that every user, human being are the weakest link when it comes to cybersecurity. So, when they check your assets and they know that you are up to date with your assets, you are doing fine, they will go through the people working within the organization, trying to get their email address, trying to see how they can spoof them, trying to see how they can send a phishing attack, to them. So like I said, the first phase is reconnaissance, right? The second phase is scanning. So like once you've gathered information, like for example, the IP addresses, the subdomain of the bank or the target assets, you understand, the subdomain, the IP addresses, the technologies they are using, their location, their support email addresses and the likes. Then you come to the scanning phase. Based on the information you've gathered under the reconnaissance phase, right? You start scanning. So if you've gathered like 5 IP addresses that are external IP addresses, right? You start on the scanning phase, you begin to use tools that will scan for open ports or the programs or application running on those assets, right? Because they are external facing assets, just like every website. You can scan a website to know the kind of technology that the website is developed with, and to even know if the version of the service, for example, Apache, right? Apache, most WordPress sites are developed with Apache, JavaScript, and the like. So if the JavaScript version is not up to date, and you check online and you see that it can be exploited, then you can conduct an exploit injection attack, a cross-site scripting attack, as the case may be. So on the scanning phase, you're trying to do more of I'll call it an active reconnaissance. So like I said, reconnaissance is divided into 2, passive and active. Passive in the sense that you're not targeting the asset at that time. You are just trying to gather public available information. But active in the sense that you are trying to scan the assets. You understand? So if you are scanning the assets, for example, the IP addresses, to see maybe there are open ports that you could exploit. Maybe port 21 is open, you can send, that is FTP port, you can send a malicious application over that port, right? So that could be it. So that happens within the scanning phase. You are scanning for that asset to see any loophole, any vulnerability that could be available or that you could exploit. That happens within the scanning phase, right? I don't. Okay. Okay. So Jeremiah, sorry, I forgot to drop the slide for last week. I'm just going. I'll do that at the end of this class. Are we all listening? I want to get your feedback before I continue. Do you understand?
Yes, I'm listening.
All right.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right.
We're listening.
So on the gaining access phase, when you have scanned and you've seen that maybe port 80 is open, port 21 is open for FTP, 80 is for HTTP, or you are seeing certain ports like SMB protocol port is open on port 39 or port 445. Those are ports that you can use to share files, or you understand, you can use to share files, or you are seeing that maybe what other ports are there? Maybe you are seeing that Telnet port is open. There you can do like banner grabbing for the technologies that are installed on your victim network, right? So gaining access is like, okay, during the scanning phase, you've been able to see 1 or 2 vulnerabilities that exist within that organization. So gaining access, you now start making research on those vulnerabilities, right? You make research on via Google or any platform to see maybe their available exploits. Let me make it more clear. Let's say maybe you discover on First Bank's website that port 80, let's say, or port 80 or port 443 is running Apache. And the version of Apache during the scanning phase, you discover that the version of Apache that is running is, let's say, version 2. And you now also discover that version 3 is vulnerable, right? Is unpatched, is vulnerable, and that's some exploit. You go out there to download the exploit. Then gaining access is finding a way to exploit that vulnerability, finding a way to upload the exploit or use the exploit. It could be using what's it called, Metasploitable. You understand, Metasploit framework to gain access to that victim machine, right? So that's how it's works. That's what gaining access means. So this still boils down on your information gathering. So if you are not able to find out any information, that means you can't gain any access. That's why hacking is very difficult. It's not, people just feel that you pick up a system and you start hacking. No, you spend a lot of time in the information gathering. This could be 1 month, it could be 2 months, looking at your victim, trying to see what are their weak points, what technology you can use to exploit. That's why bug bounty on its own too is a very difficult task. It could take 6 months to find a vulnerability, right? So it's a very taxing process. So ethical and most of the time you have to even go through all these 6 phases. So from gaining access, you move on to maintaining access. Maintaining access is that if you're able to successfully exploit a vulnerability, you want to create a backdoor, so to say, so that you can come back and exploit more vulnerabilities. So you just don't want to gain access once and leave that system. So that's where attacker come out with the idea of creating a backdoor. So if they send a malicious application on your system, they make sure that the application is hidden and you can't delete it. So that's where you how many of you remember like the task we did that I gave to you guys last week about new schedule task creation? That's one of the techniques that these attackers use, right? They will use they will write a program such that once that malicious payload is executed, it will be hidden within the registry key, right? So that it can establish persistency, so that it can stay for a long, even if you off the system and you turn it on, it will still be there. So that's what we call maintaining access. So they try to create a backdoor so that they can come back anytime they want to exploit that victim, right? So now we go on to clearing tracks. So attackers are very good at clearing tracks. So research has shown that over time that most organizations don't even know that they've been compromised, because attackers, once they assess an organization, once they exploit that organization, they try to clear their tracks so that you can't see anything. But if as an organization you have solutions like SIEM, EDRs, so you can monitor for events that are happening within your environment. You can have logs, right? You can have logs to look out for events. This is where we need the help of a threat hunter, cybersecurity analyst to look at the solution, to look at the posture of your network and see that, oh, there are certain events that are abnormal. Then they can start investigating further. So, but if you don't have solutions that can track logs, that can capture logs in real time, it's going to be difficult, because attackers most time clear logs, clear their logs so that there's no trace. Then reporting to, as an ethical hacker, reporting is a huge part of the ethical hacking phase, because most of your customers, they don't understand what you are doing. They don't understand what the operation you are doing. They just call you and they employ you, or they contact you for the job. So you need to be able to write your reports, executive reports, because most of the stakeholders don't understand these technical terms. So you need to be able to put down a snapshot, explain those terms in a very clear language that the stakeholders in your organization can understand, every other team members can understand, and so, okay, we have a vulnerability here. This is what we need to do to patch them up, right? So that's where reporting comes into play, right? So if you can't report, then it's going to be difficult for you to show value, right? So, okay, so I'm spending so much time on this. So is there any question on this ethical hacking phases? All right, somebody's saying I should explain reconnaissance once again. So reconnaissance, like I said, is information gathering, right? So just like you are trying to gather information, public available information about your asset. I give an example, like let's say Keystone Bank, right? Don't worry, as we go on, I will do a practical demo to show you guys how you can conduct an information gathering, against any asset, right? So, and at this point, one thing about information gathering is that you don't even need to use Kali, so to say. You can even from your browser use certain tools online to gather information, and you'll be amazed the kind of useful information you can gather. Trust me. So information gathering on the high level is just gathering information about your victim. Trying to look at what you can exploit about your victim. So that is what it is. But you have to do that intensively. Like I said, there are 2 types: active and passive. So is there any other question before we move? All right. So we can move on, right?
Sorry, can you restate what you said about reporting?
Oh, okay. So for the reporting aspect, sorry, what's the name? What's the name? You just ask.
My name is Demike.
Okay. All right. So reporting aspect, like I said, it is more useful for ethical hackers than the bad guys. The bad guys don't report, right? But you as an ethical hacker, right, you need to do reporting. So let me give you an instance that you are a particular organization contacts you to carry out penetration testing. So even if you're conducting a pen testing, you are still going to pass through these phases, right? So at the end of your your attack keychain or your operations, right? You need to feed back to the stakeholders that employ you or that contacted you, right? You need to be able to explain to them because they're the ones that will pay you. So how will they know that there's a vulnerability on their network? You need to be able to show them snapshot, explain to them what was vulnerable, what you think has high rates, low rates within their environment, and what they should focus on now. So reporting gives you just a breakdown, executive summary, and within the reporting, it must contain executive summary. It must contain the categories of the vulnerability that was discovered, how you discovered the vulnerability.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Please, is this session being recorded?
Yeah, it's being recorded.
Oh, okay, thanks.
What's the name, sir?
Prince.
Oh, okay, Prince.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay, so that is reporting. I don't know if what I said is clear enough. So, but I could share with you a sample of how a report looks like. Don't worry, as we go on, I will share with you a sample, the one I did for an organization, right? That shows how you can go step by step. Then your reporting must also contain a remediation process or remediation suggestion based on certain vulnerability that was discovered. So I'm talking in terms of an ethical hacker. But of course, most bad guys don't report because their major aim is just to gain access, right, into your system and steal your information. I don't know if that's clear. All right.
It is. Thank you.
All right. So let's continue. So please, if you have any questions, just hit me up. Let me. Okay, so this I would like to say there's a difference between ethical hacking phases and cyber attack chain. So in an interview, you might be asked that, can you explain the cyber attack chain? Don't explain these phases. This is an ethical hacking. These are the different phases that we have within ethical hacking. It is different from cyber attack chain. So we'll be going to that will be our next. Okay, so let's talk about the cyber attack chain. So the cyber attack chain is like a framework, that shows the step-by-step of how an attack is carried out, explaining the various step processes that a cyber attacker, we take in conducting an attack. It just describes the flow from start to finish. So it's more of a framework. Okay. So it's more of a framework. That's what this cyber attack chain is. So the first phase, you can see that the first phase again within the cyber attack chain is reconnaissance, right? It is still information gathering. Like I said earlier, 60% of your time should be spent doing reconnaissance, because if you can try as much as possible to find enough rich information about your victim, it's going to be very easy for you to exploit them. So as you can see on the screen, this is where the attacker acquires information about the target, locating the security gaps, vulnerability that they can exploit. That's the first. Then the second phase of the cyber attack chain had to do with weaponization. So what is weaponization? This is where the attacker, after he has done his information gathering, he's now looking for a way to create malware, because during the information gathering, now the reconnaissance here include information gathering and scanning. So during that phase, he has discovered certain vulnerability. So during the weaponization phase, what happens is that you now start looking for how we can create malwares, that can exploit those vulnerabilities. It could be a payload, it could be a Python script, it could be a DLL file. If you check up my my YouTube videos, you will see how I create some of these malwares, and exploit a victim machine. So that's what attackers do. They can create, for example, let me say a malicious file, attach it to a PDF file, or they can create a software and rename it to, let's say, VSC, or a useful update. They can name it Microsoft Update. You now just download that particular file and run it. So that is what weaponization has to do with creating a payload or a malicious application, to exploit the vulnerability that was discovered during the reconnaissance phase, right? All right, so, okay, so the next phase is delivery. So delivery is also a very hard phase, because if you can't deliver your malicious payload, then it's going to be difficult for your victim to get them. So this is where you see a lot of options, such as phishing, spear phishing. You see, like, using USB or dropping those files on a crack website, or, you understand, or a social media what's it called, social media engineering. So where you see somebody on Facebook or LinkedIn trying to private chat you, telling you that, please kindly open this link, vote for me, blah blah blah. So these are various ways that attackers use to exploit victims. So this just also means, by the way, this just means that not every link you see online that you should click. And there's also a way to verify this link, if they are actually malicious or not. So don't just click any link because somebody private chat you and say vote for me, or can you view my product, or something. So this is where like I said, we have spear phishing, phishing itself, using USB drive, or using free sites where you can see free software to download, crack versions. So these are various ways that attackers can actually deliver those malicious payload to their victim. Then we'll talk about exploitation. So once a victim or a person gets download a malware, you would want to execute that application system. So in the process of executing that application, can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
It's cracking.
Yeah,
although it's breaking.
Okay, let me know if it's all right. I'll continue. So, like I was explaining, on the exploitation phase, what's it called? Using the identified vulnerability, that in the system to execute that malicious. This is where the my screen. Okay, so can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me now.
I hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so we can continue there. Okay, so so that's it about the exploitation phase. Then the installation phase. So
I can hear you now.
all right, all right. So the installation phase, so this had to do with installing the malware, right? Installing the malware on that system, on the victim system. So installation could be into part. It could be remotely accessing that victim system, then you as the attacker installing the application, or delivering or sending that application, disguising to be like a legitimate application to the user. Then the user will think that maybe it's a legitimate application, then you will be the one installing it. So you can either gain remote access to the system and install the application yourself, or the user has you deliver the malicious payload, to the user, in form of a legitimate application. So that could also be a way for the user to install. Oh, okay. So this is it, right? For the exploitation phase, I will say it again. During your reconnaissance, the information gathering, you discovered that there was a vulnerability, right? Now, during the weaponization phase, what you did was that you created a malicious code that could exploit that vulnerability. Now, it is two-way. It is possible that that code was able to successfully exploit the vulnerability. It could be a 50-50 chance, right? So the process by which your malicious code is exploiting the vulnerability on the victim machine is what we call exploitation. If that exploitation doesn't take place, if it's not successful, right, it will be difficult for you to gain access. I don't know if that is fine. Because if you create a malicious payload and there's nothing to exploit on the victim machine, then it's not going to work. You understand? So you have to be able to gather enough information to say, okay, during my exploitation phase, so the exploitation phase and installation phase actually goes hand in hand. It's not like it's a different phase altogether, but they work hand in hand, because it is during the process of installing the malicious software that your code that you attach to that software will exploit the vulnerability, right? So why they exclude it here is that they are trying to show to us how important it is to ensure that the code that we create, the malicious code that we create, is able to exploit the vulnerability. I don't know if you get my point.
Yes.
All right. So after the installation phase, then you come to the command and control. This was the same question that some of us were asking. That was last week, right? What is command and control? So in simple terms, it's just the attacker's server, the attacker's machine. Because now, like I said, one of the things that the attacker wants to do is to establish a backdoor, and they want to be able to remotely access your system from their own machine. So the attacker's machine in this kind of scenario is called the command and control, because that is where it's issuing a command to your own system. You understand? So a command and control is like the attacker's machine. That is what it means, right? So, and like the seventh phase is just talking about the objective that the attacker is trying to achieve, because for every attack, there's always an objective, right? So it could be either to escalate privilege, or carry out remote code execution, or to carry out a ransomware attack. So that is always like the objective of every attack. I don't know if you guys get my point. Is there any question? You could raise up your hand, ask questions. So can we move forward? All right, so I'm just trying to walk through so fast so that we can, because most times if we pass 2 hours, some of you guys will complain. So that's what I'm trying to utilize the time. All right, so guys, this is a slide. This is capture that I saw recently, and I said I'm just going to discuss it with you guys. So it's not enough to know the cyber attack chain, right? Right. So it's also important to know what kind of security control can you put in place. So this is very important, because you might find yourself in the defensive aspect, not just in the offensive, or in the IT auditing aspect, right? Even if you're an offensive, right? Maybe you are called on to consult for an organization. You should be able to tell them that at every phases of the cyber attack chain, these are security controls that you can implement to ensure that you reduce the surface, the attack surface area, of your organization. So let me just run through this. For the information gathering phase, what can an organization put in place to ensure that attackers don't get enough information, or attackers can't gather enough information about anything that could exploit them, or any form of weakness within the organization. And also, as an organization, you should also put in place a kind of security control that will give you visibility as to what people are trying to gather on your assets. So let me give you, for example, if let's take, for example, First Bank. So First Bank should be able to have like a security control in place, such that if a user or an attacker is trying to conduct active, take note, I said it was active reconnaissance or information gathering, they should be able to look at the logs that somebody is trying to scan our assets to look for ports, or someone is trying to scan our assets to look for certain information. That is where a network, as you can see, IDS and NIDS, what it means is the network intrusion detection system. So what it does is to detect, it is used to monitor for packets. It monitor for abnormal packets that is coming into the network. It can detect DOS and DDoS attack. So we also have network intrusion prevention system. So IDS, what it does is to monitor and detect. It cannot prevent. Then IPS does the prevention, right? So these are some of the controls. Don't forget, I say network. So we can have an IPS on your system, on the endpoint system. We can also have it on the network layer. So within the reconnaissance stage, you can deploy this solution to reduce your attack surface area, right? Then secondly, we go on to weaponization. What can you do as an organization to make sure that you can detect, or you can detect any form of malicious payload that an attacker can use, to attack your organization? That's where you have threat intelligence solution, like Group IB, what's it called, Alien Vault. So these are there are several open source intelligence solutions that you can use, to detect if a particular IP address that is trying to connect to your network, what is the reputation of that IP address? Is it malicious? You understand? Or is not malicious? So if it's malicious, you can just quickly add it to your network firewall to blacklist it. So, but you need a threat intel. It could be a commercial-based threat intelligence solution, or it could just be an open source. Last week we talked about several open source, right? We talked about hybrid analysis. We talked about any.rom. We talked about virus total, right? So, but there are more like Alien Vault. There are Alien Vault Threat Connect. These are threat intelligence solutions that you can use to, know the reputation of an IP address, or of a URL that is trying to connect to your system, to your network. Sorry. Then we talked about delivery. Delivery, this is where you have endpoint solution. You can see endpoint protection like antivirus, anti-malware solution, and data loss prevention solution. So we also have endpoint, what's it called? Intrusion detection system, endpoint intrusion prevention system too. You can see antivirus solutions. So these are some of the solutions that we can have. Then we can have application level firewall, that can also prevent any delivery of the payload. Right now, don't forget what we talked about delivery. So delivery could be one that the attacker is trying to connect to your system, or trying to send payloads, trying to send that malicious payload into your network. So if you have a very good firewall that can inspect packets, that could also help here. So we have honeypot. What's an honeypot? Honeypot is like how do I put it? It's like an intentional vulnerable network. So that is used to it is used to trick the attacker. So the attacker will think that, wow, this particular system or this particular network is very vulnerable. He doesn't know that it was set up intentionally to know. Most of the time, honeypots are set up to understand the techniques that an attacker is trying to take, or the kind of procedure they are trying to use, to carry out the attack. So it's like a trap, that is set up within an organization to lure attackers in to find out their strategy. So that's what a honeypot is, right? So if you go to the exploitation phase, this is where we talk about a SIEM solution, that can gather logs, different events from event viewer, syslog from different solutions on your network or your endpoint, and give you some sort of visibility into what is happening within your network, right? Then we'll talk about installation phase. So when, for example, maybe a staff of yours in an organization might, unknowingly downloaded a cracked version of a software, you didn't know that that cracked version has some malicious payload attached to it. It tries installing it. If you have a very good antivirus, it will stop that. It will stop any form of that attack. So most of you would have noticed this. If you download a cracked version of an application and your antivirus solution is on, most of the time it will detect that payload. It will detect it as a rootkit or as a Trojan. So also it's good to also put in place two-factor authentication on your system. So that if one of the authentication method was passed, it will be difficult for them for an attacker to compromise the system if you have two-factor authentication in place. So we also talked about application file. So these are some of the procedures that you can put in place, in the defensive aspect of security, so as to reduce your surface attack. I don't know. Okay, so if you have any question here, hit me up. So now let's go into proper reconnaissance. So for this class, we are discussing more of information gathering, how to conduct it, what to do, how to use some tools to carry out information gathering. So as you can see, the methods that we have, it includes target identification and selection, profiling. You are trying to profile a particular user. So maybe he's a CEO, you want to see maybe his email address is out there for you to conduct a spear phishing attack, So you are also trying to validate certain assets. So because most organizations have internet-facing assets that their users interface with, right? So you want to also conduct and validate if those assets are vulnerable or not. So like I said, reconnaissance is divided into two. It can be active and it can be passive, right? So you can see you are trying to, just in some few minutes we'll see how we can conduct a passive reconnaissance. So I've explained into details, and like I said, reconnaissance is the most important phase in ethical hacking, the most important, trust me, because if you can't find anything useful during the information gathering phase, then what it means is that it's likely that you're not going to exploit anything, so it's the most useful phase. And it's also a phase where you need to take a lot of notes. You need to take a lot of notes, snapshots, because you can easily forget. All right, yes, I said it. I would. Okay, let's continue. I will share the slide after this class. All right, so during the passive reconnaissance phase, right? What are the things that we can gather? What are the things we are trying to look out to gather during the passive reconnaissance phase? The first thing is the location of your victim. It could be satellite image, it could be via Google Maps. Okay, for example, let's say Polaris Bank, or let's say Access Bank. You want to know the location where they are, right? You want to know the layout of where your victims are, right? For example, maybe you are trying to carry out against a university. You want to know you want to gather information about the location if you want to gather enough information about what is special about the location, what can you exploit about that location, you know. So secondly, you want to talk about, so I'm just going to pick some very important points. I will not discuss everything. So we want to talk about also the employees, right? Two key, for me, very key information based on my experience is, if it's for an organization, always first go for the employees. Check on LinkedIn, check on various platforms to see the kind of employees, you know. Try to gather enough information, their names, if possible, their email address, which is very important when, if you want to conduct a phishing attack. You know, you want to gather information about the various employees from their C-level to their lowest staff, right? Then that is on the physical aspect. Then on the web or host aspect, right? On the web or host aspect, you are looking at using what's it called? Tools such as WHOIS, NS lookup, DNS recon. You want to carry out a DNS recon on data if it's a website or a web server, you know, that have an IP address. You want to be able to get the exact IP address, not just the URL, you know. Then you conduct a DNS recon on it, an NS lookup, do a WHOIS to look at if it's to understand the reputation of that IP address, you know, who issued that IP address, you know, together, and also around the certificates that are installed on that server. So you can do a WHOIS. So so instead of just talking, so I'm just going to be carrying out this stuff as we go by the way. So to carry out a DNS recon, the first, a very good website to use is DNS.star, right? So let's say we want to carry out, can you guys see my screen? Let me know if you can see my screen so that, hello guys, can you see my screen? Let me hear your feedback.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We can.
All right, so like I said from my slide, right? From my slide, I was talking about we trying to gather information or carrying out a recon on a web or on a particular host machine. You know, like I said, you want to validate that web server, right? So you want to carry out, like, for example, you want to do a DNS recon. So DNS domain names system, you want to do a recon to gather information about that domain. So look at this is an example. I'm just taking, for example, the University of Illinois. I want to do a recon for it. So I'm just going to open this. So I want duplicate this. That's I can do a recon for two. So like I said, a good tool to use. You can see that we are not even opening our Kali at this point. Just a normal URL. A good tool to use is your DNS recon. So just for this one, I want to pick an organization. Let's say I don't know, is it gg.com? I just want to pick a random. What's their exact oh, okay. So what's the URL for GG? Is it GGNG or what? Okay, GG.
I think it's gg.ng.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so this is GG, right? The first thing I normally do when it comes to a website, right? A web, you can see that it's using HTTPS, right? So most times I normally try to remove the X. I want to see if you can see that it shows that it's still redirecting back to HTTPS. So this is a very good one, right? It's a very good site, because most sites, once you try and redirect to use HTTP alone, it's not going to redirect back to HTTPS. So they've really done a good work. So let's, for the purpose of this class, what we are trying to do is to carry out a DNS recon and to look up. So you're just going to paste and click search. right? And also I think I opened one to search for University of London. So let's just open the site itself. You can see this is University of London, right? Their website. So if I do this, right, I want to see what do you guys notice something? Do you notice that the HTTP did not redirect to HTTPS? So this is a security flaw. What this means is that a user can, and if a user is entering username and password or any sensitive information, it's going to be transferred in clear text. So that means it can be seen. You can see my point. So this is a security flaw. And recommendation is that once a user tries to enter HTTP, right, it should be redirected to HTTPS. Okay? Do you guys understand me, or am I just talking to myself? I want to know if
yeah, we are getting.
All right, okay. So let's go on to, you can see that we've already found out the first flow on the website. So I'm just going to use this. Let's search. Let's search. So we are trying to do like a DNS recon. So like I'm saying for my slide, you can do a okay, let me open this too. So that it's more practicable what we're doing. So you can go to whois.com. So whois is like check whois, give you information about the domain. So you can put the domain here too, right? Would be let's choose another maybe let's say let's choose this guy. That's so let's say whois on Twitter. Okay. All right, so domain. Save and save. So let me just okay. Yeah, this is trying to for. So you can see, so this is like a whois journey. You can see showing us information about the URL. The whois server is hosting that the web application. You can see their IP addresses, right? You can see their IP addresses. You can see showing us how it was able to gather information about the justcooler.com. For example, if you go up to see DNS record, is this still? Okay, so guys, you can see, look at the DNS record. You can see the most important, we have different types of DNS record, right? We have the A record, which shows the exact IP address of that domain. So, for example, buddha.bank.com, this is the IP domain. This is the IP address that is being resolved to when a user type buddha.com, right? So, you can take note of this IP address. You can see the mail exchange record, right? You can see the mail exchange record. You can see the name server record. But one of the most important things that we have here is the A record, because the A record shows you the exact IP address, the IP version 4 IP address, right? If it is quadruple A record, it will show you the IP version 6 address. So that is one information. Like I said, as part of your reporting, these are some things you'll be taking snapshot. Okay, this is my DNS about the victim machine that I'm trying to take and target. You want to take note of all this information. So I'm just, for example, just trying to, let me put this down for so I'm just trying to bring up okay, so let's go and check up our, so this is for Wiz, this is how to use a Wiz, right? To search for DNS record, you know, check for information about the web server that is hosting that particular web application. So basically, this is what Wiz will give you. But let's take a look at what we have for DNS dumpster. Stuff refresh. So, okay, so let me just pick up. I'm just pick up the different. Yeah. Okay, so along with information gathering, let's as this is going on, what else can we gather about an asset? I came across also a particular open source intelligence platform called Ping Eyes. So this helps you to search for your victim. If, for example, you want to put, you want to get a visual image of your victim, for example, and you want to search for based like picture, you want to gather information around the picture of your victim, you know, maybe you just have just one picture and you want to gather more, you want to have a more broader view of your victim. You can upload a picture, you know, just as if you are looking for IP or URL, but this time around you are looking for picture. So I'm just going to put my password. So let's see if it's going to find something. I need to refresh it. So this. Okay. All right. So it's trying to, you know, to like search, trying to search through. So if you have an image, you want to draw an open source intelligence about that image, it's a good tool. In eyes.com. What's happening? Okay, so we have our record, right? Now, under our DNS dumpster, guys, you can see we have different information. Yeah, we have DNS server. These are the different records. So let's scroll down to go through them one by one. So this is showing us the location where the host is being located, where the web server is being located. You know, for example, if it's GoDaddy, it's going to show you the location of GoDaddy, right? Now look at the DNS servers. So it's showing us the IP addresses, right? The DNS servers that is hosting that application. You can see the mail exchange record too. This is also useful, especially during the delivery phase, right? It's also useful. Like I said, a very good important information is the A record. You know, the A record is important once when you're looking for information, because that shows you the exact IP address of your victim. Right, so I'm just trying to scroll through. Okay, so a very good part, a very good feature for the DNS dumpster that I like so much is this mapping. I'm trying to, okay, you can see there's my screen. So it shows you, you can see this is the victim URL, right? Showing you that we have DNS, mail exchange, and A record, right? You can see these are the, it's not just so, you can see that it's showing us the various subdomains that it could get. You can see the various subdomains that it's discovered. Now we can even see the mail exchange, the web. You can see that the attacker is using webmail. From this information, we can see that the attacker is using a webmail. So we can even take that webmail and start attacking differently, right? We can see, so it's showing us the IP address, right? Then it's showing us the subdomains that the user have. Because if we use, this is very important, because once you have information around the subdomain, you'll be able to, there might be sensitive information around, for example, web email. This, if you want to conduct a DDoS attack, you can conduct it against the web email subdomain URL of that victim victim URL that we have, right? So this is this, and they are the ones that we can see. Trying to go, okay, and just this. Then you can see that the URL, the web server is hosted using just host. Is hosted using just host, right? Then what other information can we gather from the TNS Drumstar? Okay, so I'm just kind of going to okay, so I want to put this on a different tab so I can. All right, then scroll up to show you guys the other information that we have. Oh, sorry. Do I need to enter my account?
I'm sorry, I really can't hear anything. Is it just my phone or my network?
Sorry? Oh, okay.
I said I couldn't hear any explanation. I just wanted to check if it was my phone or the network.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, okay. So, guys, these are the list of subdomains that we've been able to gather from that that URL, the target URL that we check. You can see that companies using cPanel. These are the IP addresses that we have, right? What else can we discover? So basically, to just give you information about subdomains, what's it called, the IP address, you know, that was gathered. You can see this is the IP address of that particular URL, you know. So these are some of the informations that you have to gather and, you know, take note of, you know, so that you can use them. You can now start scanning those IP addresses to look out for open ports, you know, and services that are running those ports, right? So I think so. We did one for this one we did for GG, right? You can see for GG the same things. We can see the DNS server that we, you know, it's using Cloudflare, right? So we can also see the mail exchange servers that we have, you know. So we can see what's called A record. You can see the A record, and we can see different what's it called, different subdomains or subdirectories within that particular website, you know, and you can see all of them are really redirected to .159. So let's go down, let's see if there's any other information that see. You can see the difference of domains. Some of them just contain images. Some of them also contain the different so you can see ekitikwara.gg, you know, different states, but they are all using the same IP address, you know, which is they are using DigitalOcean. So we are just trying to gather enough information about your target. So this is what I'm just trying to tell you. There is enough. If we sit down and to go through all the tabs that I've opened, we're not just going to be, because it's going to be well, I'm just going to choose some of the most vital what's it called, tools that I use that will give you a very granular insight. Okay, so two things we gathered that for GG, we're able to gather okay, on slide So I'm going to do this double confirm. I'm going to go to this guy address. This belongs to cloud floor. So just okay, so I'm just trying to double confirm. You can also see, guys, there's something else I want to show you. You can see the email address. You can see email address that has to do with the admin of the server. So this is also something that we could note, because we could also try and push out like a phishing attack to that particular email. So it's a way to also gather information about the admin that is using that the email address of the admin that is managing that server. So this is not giving me. I'm trying to look out for the IP address. It should. Okay. So it's just giving us information about the release data. So I was trying to show you guys something about it's kind of like you need to log in to use this. Let me try and log in. So it's also a good tool that can be used basically to gather information around what's it called, picture. So let's see. Okay, so aside those tools, there are other tools. There's another one called Spiderfoot. So Spiderfoot is like Nmap online. So I used to call it Nmap online. It can be used to scan your assets for any form of vulnerability. So what you use Spiderfoot, you need to create an account on it. You can see that I'm currently logged in. Unlike other platforms, you just need to open it, but this one you need to create an account. Once you create an account, you will be presented with this kind of display. Then you can click on create to create a new scan. Then you're going to name your scan. Let me call it feature. Then I'm going to put down my asset. So it has to be the domain of my asset. Let me let's use GG. Yeah, it's entry, right? So that's it. So if you have maybe several assets, you could import at the same time. But if it's just you can just see, then you click. You can see it run scan now, right? So click on this. So it's going to start scanning, and it will give us various based on the finding. It's give us the it's fine. and classify them into high, medium, and low. So what I'm just trying to show you guys is that aside not if you're conducting information gathering, it's not just about using Kali. There are several open tools out there that we could use, to give us useful insights about the external facing assets that we have. So scanning. So I'm going to go to another one called spice.com. So spice.com to give you information, try to do like, as you can see, digital footprinting on an external facing asset, right? So let's see, just gg.com. So let's get information. So spice to me, spider food, these are that we can use to get information. So you can see we have issue organizations card like we talked about. It's giving us some sites here. Let's just scroll them. See the A record. That's 159. It is also the 159. So for every of this is the 159. That's the A record. So the good thing to also look at, you guys should look at the left-hand side here we have here. You can see it's showing us some of the results, some of the HTTPS status, and also you can see the various technology that is being used on the website. You can see the various technologies. Also give you an insight about the various technologies that is currently used on the website. WordPress, just gives us an instant that MySQL is used as a database, right? So it's not using SQL Server or PostgreSQL and PostgreSQL. It's not using NoSQL. It's using MySQL. They are using Apache, so these are basic information about what's it called, GG. So this just conducts, and like I said, this is still passive and it's not showing anything red, telling us that there's anything that is flagged. Okay, so I'm just trying to go back to see what we had on spider food scanning for technology. Okay, so we can also check through. Okay, now, since we have an IP address, what else can we do apart from just scanning for information around DNS and like, what else can we do, right? So if we have an IP address, copied out an IP address for CUDA, right? So what can we do? Can we scan for open port? Yeah, we can. So Nmap does not just exist on Kali. We still.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I want to ask a question.
All right.
Assuming I create an honeypot on our network.
Yeah. What's the name?
Tolu is my name.
Okay.
Is it possible for someone trying to check on this kind of platform?
Yeah.
To think that is accessing, as in, what I mean is, will this kind of platform indicate that, okay, we're looking at our honeypot and think, okay, they have a weakness in their network? I don't know if you get my question.
The attacker.
Hello? Hello? Can anyone else hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Maybe Mr. Nelson is
having some issues. Hold on.
Maybe it's network.
Hi everyone. I can't hear anything. Is it only me?
I
I
think
think
his
he's
network
having
has
a
issue.
network issue. Yes.
Hello, guys. Sorry, my network.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I think the weather changed.
Yes, yes. I was even having network issue on my end. The weather is bad.
Yeah, the weather is.
No problem, sir. You can move on.
So, to what's his name again? I think I forgot.
Tolu
Yeah.
Lokwe.
Yeah. So, of course, the tools will not know, right? The tools will not know that you are using an honeypot.
Okay.
And you as an attacker, that's the advantage of using a honeypot. Most organizations see it like it's expensive, stuff like that, but it's actually useful. I don't know if you get my point.
Okay, okay.
All right. So let me share my screen. Is there any question, please, guys?
So I have a question.
All right.
Okay. There was a situation. I think maybe last 2 years whereby Bet Niger site was down, and they were able to redirect their users to a different website with the same with a different domain name with a different host.
Okay.
Now my question is, assuming I launch a DDoS attack on my victim,
yeah,
then by the time the site is down, then I bring the site up, then I put some phishing links on the site. As a result of that, my victim clicks on the link, and I'm able to access his FTP accounts.
Yeah.
And I go into his control panel and delete some of all his files and his backups. Will the person still be able to redirect to a different host with the same website?
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible because now the host itself, right, is being managed by a third-party vendor, right? Like Cloudflare or GoDaddy or something, right?
Yes.
They are hosting it, but now the attacker is targeting the URL, your website. Now, what they did was that they create a active design. What that means is that they've emphasized that the risks that if this particular site goes down, what are we going to do? How you understand? What should be like our disaster recovery plan? So what they've done is that they've set up another host by the side. So now, no matter how bad, even if the DDoS attack is being done, because now don't forget, if a DDoS attack is carried out, right, it is not carried out on the URL, it's carried out on an IP address, because the URL is just for us to is a friendly way to access an IP address, right? So DDoS attack is done on a particular asset IP, not on the URL. Now, once you as an attacker is carrying out a DDoS attack on that IP, what the victim needs to do is remove that URL, and give it to another IP address, so such that it will look at. So it's just to remap that URL to the new IP address, the standby IP address. And you as an attacker conducting that DDoS attack, you are conducting it against the first IP address, not knowing that the victim already have a backup IP. All you need to do is to update and remap the URL. It is done on the domain, the DNS server. Once you get to your DNS server, remove the old IP address that is down and update it with your new IP address. Then before you know, your site is up. So what people will be seeing, they are seeing the same URL, but at the back end, the IP address is different. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, clearly. Thank you.
Yes. So it's just like a quick update change on the DNS server, right?
Yes, sir.
Provided that a standby server is in place, is already in place. That's so what they had there is, you know, a risk avoidance. What they had already calculated. They have a very good disaster recovery plan
as a backup. Yes.
Yes, as a backup in place. So that's what they did. They just updated their DNS server and removed the old IP and put in the new IP.
Okay.
You get my
Thank
point?
you, sir.
All right. So like I was saying to you guys that you can see that for example, Access Bank PSC.com. This is the IP address, right? This is what we as users know, but this is the IP address. Now, if a user have come to this particular site and gets the exact IP address, right? This is part of information gathering, right? The next thing that the attacker wants to do, even without getting into Kali, we want to scan for open ports and services. Then what we can do is that we'll go into what's it called? We can use OpenVAX. So all these tools I'm showing you guys, they are all accessible online. There's nothing special about it. They are all accessible online. So I'm going to do this. So you can go to pentest.tools.com. They have very good tools that you can use to carry out what's it called, open source intelligence. So I'm just going to copy out. Sorry, yeah. So I'll copy out this and put it on the OpenVAS. So an OpenVAS is like, it does like a vulnerability scan on an external facing asset, like your website. So I'm just going to copy it this way. Then I'm going to try the scan now. So I'll do a lightweight scan. So I'm going to copy out my IP. I can use my domain of my IP. I prefer using the IP. So this is an online enhanced scan. This is so these targets, right? So what I want to do is I want to conduct let's say I want to conduct OS detection. So okay, so I want to do a port scan to see if these common ports are open on this asset, right? So I'm just going to click on scan. Okay, so that's for what's it called? Access bank. So we have already started some scan initially. And so far, you can see it's still running. Still running. So these are some of the assets, some of the discoveries it has done. But so far, it has not shown any high discovery so far. Let me see what we have on spikes. Okay, so spikes just gave us this. So let me check on is like, let me check on example, the IP address of a target. Let's see. Okay, so this is also like for access bound. One of the good things using Spice is that it gives you information about the technology. It gives you access to, for example, technology. Then you can click them one by one. So if, for example, the technology, the version of the software they are using, right, if it is unpatched, so this can give an attacker, for example, a way to look out for any vulnerability that can exploit that, and use it against the victim. Currently, it's using, you can see the version, guys, you can see the jQuery version that is being used on this target, that's on access bound. Now, they are using on their, that's their external facing assets. Don't forget, they are using Azure, this, and look at the various versions. So if this particular version is vulnerable, all you need to do, for example, let's copy this out. This is jQuery, for example. Just copy this out somewhere. So we want to check if jQuery this has any exploits available. All you need to do, you can check on exploits DB. You can see or just check vulnerability. Do we have any vulnerability available on this? CV. Seems like there's something out there that's this. You can see there's a known vulnerability for jQuery 1.7.2, right, on GitHub. So what an attacker would do is go to this part, download this vulnerability, and find a way to exploit that on the asset. You can see that it has a known vulnerability that's been reported. So if you now as a security engineer is being employed, these are some of the things you need to be doing. Then talk to your security team to update their patch, to update these services. So this is what we are doing. Actually, I did plan for this, so but this is what we are seeing out there. So as a bank, I expect that all the softwares are up to date. So if an attacker can take his time to check enough, you can look out a way to exploit this vulnerability, conduct, for example, a cross-site scripting or an XP injection attack on that external facing asset. But there are also times that you might find a vulnerability, but you can't exploit it. It's not every time you find a vulnerability. You can see that, you see what I was saying, it's related to a cross-site scripting attack. Are you guys listening to me, or am I still talking to myself? Hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. There is a slight background noise, but we can hear you.
Oh, there's slight background noise.
Yes.
Hello? I don't know if it's the noise coming from my side. I'm not so sure. Okay. Okay, so is there any question at this point? Is there any question at all at this point? Do we have any question? Okay, so what I was just explaining is, taking you guys through how we can conduct, what's it called, open source information gathering on an asset. So I've taken you guys to see from the IP address to see technologies that exist, on the external facing assets, then also how to check, for example, the various services, version of those services running, right? You can see, for example, this is a web server. You can see that we have a web server. So the question is, I'm just going to remove the jQuery part. This is a web server. We could also want to see, for example, the version of the web server, if it is patched or if it's not patched. So these are the various ways you can conduct. We have ASP.NET, the version. You can take a look at some of these versions if they are vulnerable or not. So this is just a way for you to conduct open source intelligence with online application. With online application. So we conducted an Mmap scan. You can see that so far via the IP address of Axis Bank, you can only see that only 2 ports is open, right? So of course, as this is expected, port 80 is open, then port 443, which is, you can see that IS is running on it, and on is IS HTTPD 10.0 is running on port 443 and also on port 80. So you could take a look at that version to see if it's vulnerable. Is there any exploit on it? Yes, guys, there's an exploit on it. So there's an exploit that we could use to, you can see there's an exploit for this, right? So these are some of the things, these are exploits that all you need to do is, go to download and download the exploit and find a way to exploit, download this is the exploit, find a way to see how we can exploit that vulnerability, because that's what we've discovered so far, right? So guys, I wouldn't want to waste more time. I don't know if you guys have any questions. So I just want to make it so much practical for you to see how we can, try and look out for, exploits on external facing assets. If you are working for an organization, you could try it out for your organization. If you find anything, that is vulnerable, you could report it to your, IT team or to the necessary department. So do that out. So I don't know if I have any question at this point, so that we can could go on with our slide. And okay, so we started around 4:30, so we have some few minutes before we complete our 2 hours. All right, guys. So we've just gone through how we can conduct an active and a passive reconnaissance, right? Okay, so you can see, is there any question? Anybody have any question at this point, or we should just continue? So I want to continue. All right. So,
No, sir.
all right, so this is what we've done. Most of what is there is what we've carried out practical. You can see what we did. We checked for domain name and IP address, right? Using some like whois.com, DNS to IP address.com. So different sites, DNS dumpster. You can see that we checked on whois to see the IP range, the email addresses of the admin that is managing the web application. We also see the geographical location on DNS dumpster. We're also able to check the DNS record, using the DNS dumpster. So yeah, we didn't use, for search engine, we didn't do the Google docking or showdown. So we also use Spiderfoot, which is still currently running. So most of these applications can be downloaded and used on Kali, but they also have an online version of it, So that is how we can conduct a reconnaissance. These are some of the tools that we've done, we've used, right? There are some of these tools that we've used. Also, before I forget, I want to mention that we also have a very good framework. We have a good framework that is called open source intelligence framework.com. It's a very good framework that every one of us should take note of. I'm just going to drop it on chat. You can take note of this framework because it's going to be helpful. You can see it is basically used to guide us through our open source intelligence. In case, I've opened several URLs here. So what about if you don't know this URL? One of the sites you should not forget, you should always remember, is this particular one that I'm showing you guys now, because it can help you guide you through other platforms that you can use to conduct open source intelligence. For example, email address. I want to look for email addresses, right? I click on email addresses. It's going to bring on some options. Okay, what exactly do you want to look for? Is it for breach data, email verification? You want to verify a particular email. If I want to verify a particular email, these are some of the platforms that I can use to verify a particular email address. Or I want to search for email. If I want to search for email, I can come to this part and click on it. You can see different URLs that we can use to search for emails, right? So for example, if I click on, let's say, Hunter, let me click on Hunter. Okay, so, okay, you can see it's asking us for the domain name. So let's pick a domain name, guys. Let's say, I don't know, this is one that normally comes easily for me. So I'm just going to pick this. Let's see. Let's search. Guys, can you see? It's automatically search for email address.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Yeah, so it will help you search for email address. So if an attacker wants to conduct phishing attack, right, it will come to this kind of platform to harvest credentials. The next thing it will do, what will it do next, is that you can see this career.gg, this support.gg. This seems to be like, let's see, we have more details to this. Okay, this is do not reply. So currently, this doesn't have much information as far a particular user name. So what else can we do? Want to take a look at maybe some other so, yeah. You see, guys, this will give you, because it is a free version, but if it's a subscribed version, it will give you a lot more. But instead of using this kind of tool, are there any other tool that we can use to harvest email addresses, right? So let's take a look at, let's go to my Kali. So let's take a look at, there's a tool called the Harvester. It is, I think it's also listed under this framework, the Harvester. You can see it. Can you see it, guys? The Harvester. So the Harvester tool, basically, you can't use it on an online, on the browser. You need to download it. You can see you need to download it and use it. So it comes by default with Kali. So what can we do is that we can log in. So we can log in to, I'm just going to log into my Kali, then I'll do this. Okay. All right. So guys, it is there. You can search it up. You can search it from your. Can you see my screen, guys? Hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, yes, we can.
Right. Okay, so you can search it up on the menu, right? You can. I'm trying to open the menu so you can see. You can search it up and click the Harvester. You can see it and click on it, right? Click on it, or you can just go to your terminal, click on the terminal and click the Harvester. You can see that it's opened already, right? It's showing us the various flags that we can use. So how do we use the Harvester tool? Not to waste much time. So first thing, you are going to type the Harvester, right? Then the next thing we are going to type, you can see the various options. We have -d domain, because we want to put in the domain. So -d, you can put -d. then the domain, which means the domain. So what domain are we trying to look out for? Let's take a look out, for example, access ban, or just any other domain that is out there. So I'm just going to go back to just copy and paste. Right. Then going to the next thing we're going to do is we are going to click on dash B, the source. So where dash B is saying that which search engine do we want to use, to search for this information, Then we are also going to use dash L to also limit the search, right? Those are the three major flags that we can use. So you can see dash B is saying the source. So you can decide to search on, for example, virus Twitter. You can decide to search on LinkedIn. You can decide to search on Google. So I'm just going to, first of all, click on dash L to limit my search to 100, 100 records. Then I'm going to click on this dash B, right? Then I want to use LinkedIn. Why am I using LinkedIn? Because, most professionals use LinkedIn, and sometimes people, impute their official email address. So this also, by the way, is not good to impute your official email address on LinkedIn, please. So because you could be a victim of spear phishing attack. So this is something that we're going to do. Then we're going to click enter. So it will start the harvester tool, right? As you can see, start the harvester tool and try to scan the assets. Okay, so let's see. Do we need to put in guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, we can hear you.
So the screen is off, but we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So let me just go back. So please just give me just Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, so sorry, I had an emergency. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so guys, okay.
So I have a question. Is this
Right.
Kali Linux?
Yeah, that I'm using. This is Kali Linux that I'm using. This is Kali.
Yes. Is it running on Python?
Yeah. So the tool is developed for Python. That's that's my
So I did not get that.
I said it has several tools. I think somebody needs.
Then you know.
Okay. Okay. So I think just a minute. I want to connect to my my Kali is not, the server is not, the IP address is not going outside the network. So I want to change my my network. Just a minute. Okay, guys, can you hear me? I just changed my network.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So somebody was asking a question around what's it called? Kali. So what I was saying is that Kali has, you know, it's a Linux-based operating system. So it has several what's it called? Python scripts. Most of these tools are created using Python. You get my point. So, but it's just like a VM that is customized basically for attackers to use. So this is a way to, what I'm currently doing, I'm using the harvester tool. You know, you guys, can you see my screen? Can you see what the results?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
previously I was using my phone, so the IP address was not connecting, was not going outside the internet. So that was right. But you can see what happened. I used the harvester to look out for what's it called? To look out for email address and users that worked for a particular organization. In this case, Keystone Bar. And you can see the list of users. You can see we have these are list of users that we have so far, you know, and currently they don't have any email address. You can see we just have the users, but we don't have email addresses that are that we have out there. So if we change the source, for example, if we change the source, so this we're able to enumerate for users. If we change the source, like say, let's say Google, let's see if we might have any useful information out there, you know, on the internet, because this is how phishing attack is being conducted. You have to look out for email, finding a way to, you can see we're able to find out only very few email addresses. These are some of the few email addresses we were able to find out, guys. So if you conduct this kind of, if you conduct this for maybe certain organization, you know, you'll be amazed how the kind of information, their email addresses, their boss email addresses that you can find out, you know, online. Trust me, there are organizations that you can see, you know, their email addresses online, especially SMEs like that. Let me see. Let me do this. So I'm just trying to show you guys basically what attackers do. You know, most of the time to gather information. You know, they take out time to gather enough information, and then they'll carry out spear phishing attack. You know, and the case. You can see, guys. You can see from this, we're able to gather. You can see these are information about. You can see this somebody's email address. You know, and before you know, you can send a phishing email to that person, right? So is there any question? Is there any question at this point? Is there any question that we need to talk about? So basically what we've tried to discuss is, so we've gone through a lot of all these tools. We've gone through a lot of all these tools. That's what we've done. But there are some other tools that we've not gone through. We've not made use of Google Document. So in Google, I just want to bring out Google. I want to show you guys the how useful a Google Document is. So Google Document basically is an advanced query for Google. Not just searching, for example, it's not just about searching. And I think my browser is okay. It's not just about searching, for example, let's say facebook.com. It is trying to go in depth to gather information. Let me do something for you guys. So, for example, if you want to search for all login page, right? Let's say we want to search for login page for most what's it called? Different websites in Nigeria. How do we do that? Just login page. So we can. What we will need to do. There are different Google Document commands that we can use. One of them is in title. What in title does is that if you search for the title of that website to see if there's anything that contains login, for example, that is what I'm trying to type in. So if I go on to say in title like this, right? Then next you have to put a column, then what you are looking for. So I'm looking for login, right? I'm looking for login. Basically, then if I do this, just login, you see it's showing us all the login page for different websites. So if we pick, for example, let's say we want to search for login page for in Nigeria, something in Nigeria, for website in Nigeria. Guys, you can see we have login page for websites in Nigeria. Then let me open one of these. Right. Hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is showing us all login page because, for example, if an attacker wants to carry out SQL injection attack, you will use Google Document to look out for login page, right? Once he's able to locate the login, so you see that. Can you see we didn't go to this URL straight for what we were able to see is the login page, right? Now I want to see if a user can just use HTTP, not just HTTPS to access it. Okay, so this is good. Their login page only accepts HTTPS. So so there are some login page that you can see out there that do not accept what's it called, other platform. So this is just a way to use what's it called, Google Document. If for example you want to search for, if you have a website in mind that you want to locate, you can put it there. So I'm just trying to do a wildcard to search for let's see, let me do. Okay, so this is also the login page, showing us the login page of universities in Nigeria that we have so far. Okay, so this kind of, so this can take you to, you can see these are different login page. So if an attacker wants to carry out, like I said, an SQL injection attack, all you need to do is to come to this part, to see the login page. Can see the login page. We don't need to go to the site to start looking for login page. You can see that, you guys, can you see that this login page is not secure? So what it means that if a user enters his username and password, it can be sniffed. It is being transferred in clear text, right? So these are some of the security issues that we have most of them on various internet facing assets, right? All right, so we are getting almost to what's it called, 6:30. I'm just trying to, so basically we've gone through some of these things practically, but I just put them in the slide. So I'm going to share the slide for your walkthrough so that you can go through it, see the different way we can use what's it called, Google Document. We use spider food. I don't know if we'll finish scanning with our spider food. Let me check. Okay. Here's it again. Spice. Can't find our spider food anymore. Just reopen it. Somebody was scanning at the time. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I closed it. I closed the spider foot. So like I said, okay, so I'm just going to stop it. Just stop the scan. So far, we tried scanning a particular asset. We can see that if we go into, let's see, under investigate. Oh, sorry. It's opening. Yeah. You can see that we scanned several assets. It's showing us the technology that is being used, so these are the various data that was crawled. So basically for me, I used to use this for technology, to see the technology and the assets that is currently being used, right? You can see, so this will show us the technology, the assets that are currently being, especially the version, just like we checked earlier, to see if they are vulnerable or not. Basically trying to do an in-depth search on the kind of technology that is being used on their web, their external facing assets. But good to say, they don't have, so far, they don't have any form of vulnerability. There are some sites that you check through that you see a lot of vulnerability, right? So what else is it we have? So we've gone through spider food. Okay, so okay, there are some other tools that we can use to check, go through, like Net Discover. Net Discover will help us to search for IP addresses within our network before we can now start using Nmap to scan them and look for open ports, right? That's what Net Discover will do. Oh, guys, please, please, I won't beg again, just a minute this time, just a minute. I want to attend to somebody, please. I will run this off just in about 5 minutes. We'll finish this up. All right. Okay, guys. So like I'm saying, so most times I just feel like it's good to practicalize so that you guys see what I'm doing. So like I said, Net Discover, it's basically used like an IP scanner. Let me call it an IP scanner. I'm just going to open another what's it called, interface. So if you do Net Discover, right, then your interface. So I think I need to put in -I. I think so. Right. Okay, so you can see it's going to start scanning my own subnet to see for active IP addresses that we have. So from there, once you can see that we have what's it called? You can find an IP address, right? 101. So from here, what do I need to do, guys? I can just take the IP address, because if this is very good, if you are, for example, carrying out a black box testing. Black box is that you don't have any information, not the IP address of the victim you are trying to assert. So if you have a network, you don't even have the IP address, nobody gives you anything. So a very good way to start is using Net Discover, to look out for assets. So once you have your what's it called, your list of IP addresses that you can gather, then you can start doing your MR, scanning for those IP addresses to see open ports and services that are running on them, right? Is there any question on this? So you can see there are different ways you can use, what's it called? You can also scan for subnets, not just a single IP address, right? That's how you can use NetDiscover too. So what else do we have, guys? And I've also put in place here some basic, what's it called, mmap command that we can run, that we can use. So just like we have on our network at the moment, like I just want to stop this because of time. I'll copy, for example, this URL, right? Then you can start your mmap. A good way to, if you're not used to mmap, just put in mmap and click enter. It will tell you, show you the different flags that can be used. You know, a very good way to start with, so that you don't start, oh, there are so many flags, which one should I use? A good shortcut to use is this one that we have here. This is -V, shows that you should display verbose information. Then -A means that you should, you can see, -A means that you should carry out what's called OS dictation, version scanning, default script scanning. So I love using -A because it is used to carry out different type of scan altogether, right? So to carry out an nmap scan, hope you guys can see my terminal. I'm just worried that it's the letters are too small for you guys to see. Just trying to just begin. Okay, let me see. I think the zoom out, right? Yeah, so I'm trying to clear the screen. So now to use nmap, right? Like I said, if you don't, just click on nmap to see all the flag. But like I said, I used to use -A, right? Then put in the IP address that we copied, the IP address that we copied. Oh, so this is, just going to cancel this. I copied so much information altogether. So I'm going to clear all the IP other information that we have. So you can see just the IP address, right? Then if you want to save it, you can put -UN to say save it, maybe as let's say announcing that to save the scan result like this, right? So to start scanning that particular asset, then it will display the result on the terminal and also save it on this file, right? So it is not something that you have to cram, guys. You just know that there are several flags that you can use. So what I did was to put some of the major flags that we can use to scan for a single IP address, scan for more. So not just single IP address, you can scan based on subnet maps, you can scan based on range, right? And scan based on the range. Just like you can see here, if you want to specify a particular port, you can use -P, right? Then if you have a list of IP addresses, you can put them in a file and also specify it like this. So mmap is a very good tool for most, not just offensive, but also defensive guys. So to perform a UDP scan, you can see -SU. By default, mmap is used to perform a TCP scan, right? Right. So, and one thing from my experience, guys, I've also noticed that there are times that your victim might block TCP. So don't just overlook UDP. You can scan for UDP. You might be surprised kind of vulnerability you find out in using UDP. Now, what about if your victim block pinging? So you guys know how mmap work. The way mmap work is that it will first ping the asset to see if it is active, then it will start scanning and doing like OS fingerprinting, trying to scan the type of operating system, the ports that is running on it. But if you want to bypass pinging, because if for example, you allow pinging and the victim block pinging, the mmap will not bring out anything. The mmap will just assume that the victim is down. But if you block, if you are saying that don't ping, just go on to scan for, carry out your full scanning, ports, services that are running, default script scanning, then it is a very useful command. There are times that if you don't see anything, don't just be discouraged. Try and use the -PN command to say no ping instructing the Nmap not to ping the asset before scanning, just go on to scan, right? You can see I use -on for output, normal output. So if you want to also output in an XML format, you can use -ox, right? So if you want to output all in all formats, use -oa, right? You can see, guys. Okay, so yeah, I think we are done. And these are the most common ports, hacked ports that you should be aware of. So it's not just enough for you to scan, you need to be aware of the kind of ports that you are looking for. This, as an attacker or a defender, these are the kind of ports that you look out for. If you remember our, what's it called, our Nmap scan, I don't know if you still have it. You can see that these are some of the major ports that are out there. We discovered port 80 and port 443, and we're able to find out that this particular version of the, what's it called, the particular version of the service running on those ports are vulnerable. So that is the first phase. You carry out a scanning, information gathering, you know, so just doing this information gathering, we're able to discover that there was a vulnerability. Then next phase is that we now carry out an exploit, right? We look out, research on how the exploit can work, how we can use it to attack or deliver it to our victim. Then we can exploit our victim. So these are just some real life scenario, you know, on how these things work. Okay, so I think we're almost done with our slide, and that is all for this class. We have an assignment for this. So since you guys already have an attack, for those that have the Kali Linux setup, you know, so you are going to download a vulnerable Linux machine. It's very like about 200 MB. I think 2 or 300 MB. I'm not sure of the size, but let me open it. So we are going to set it up so it will be like our victim machine. So we'll use our attacker machine to attack it, right? We'll perform all these things we have done, like using NetDiscover to, you know, using also Nmap to scan for vulnerability on that, what's it called? That Metasploitable. It is called Metasploitable. Let me open it for you guys. So it is an intentionally created, what's it called? Vulnerable VM that is designed for attacker. So they create it so that we can exploit vulnerability on it. So you can see, so you can go on the internet, download it. You can download it from the site. There are also other sites that you can download it from. You know, so on my network, let me show you. I think I have it on my network. Let me show you guys. Come on. See. Okay. Oh, this is very large. This one is large. Let me see. I'm not sure it's up to this amount. Let me see the size. Not exploitable. Sure. Yeah, it's not that big. I don't know why this one is there. I'll look out for the one that has the smallest size, and I'll send it to the WhatsApp group, right? So that you can download it. All you need to do once you download it, right? Once you download this file, is an ISO file. All you need to do is you just come up to your what's it called? Your file. Then you click on you click on the your own page. You know, you create it or you mount it up. That's all. You just open the VM. Either you open it if it's a OVA file, you just open the VM. But if it's ISO, you can just go on to create, then import it, just like you did for your Kali. You know, so once you import it, you will see it just like this. It will be here. So you can see I have my Kali, then I have my exploit. So just go on to you see, look for it. You know, look for it, then click next, then it is installed, right? So I'll send the guide. I'll send a guide on how to install it, so that once you install it, the assignment will be that you guys need to scan it, look out for vulnerability that is on it, and if possible, exploit it. That's the assignment, so that we work on some real projects, right? So that is what we have. Like I said, there are so many vulnerabilities on it. So, you know, So like this, I forgot. I'll send this slide and so that we can also go through, right? And secondly, that's the first assignment. The second one is that you guys are going to pick maybe you can pick up two websites, maybe a bank website or a school website, and perform an open source intelligence on it, just like we did. Perform an open source intelligence on it. So I'll send the slide, so you can see we have two Nigeria banks. Domain, pick it up, perform an what's it called, an open source intelligence on it, spot any vulnerability and report it. You can put it and put a snapshot on a notepad. You can put it on a notepad and we'll send the link just like we did for the last week class. We'll send the link for you to upload it on it, right? So those are the two major major assignments that we have. And to also help you guys master how to use Google Docking, you can perform Google Docking on your own profile, and also how to use NetDiscover and Mmap, just like I showed you guys. But these are the two major assignments. First of all, download the Metasploitable OS, then mount it up on your VM, then start attacking it. It has a default username and password. I think it's Metasploitable. I'll send that in email after this class. To the chat after this class, so that you guys can set it up and start attacking it and see if it's vulnerable or not. Then this second assignment too is just like what we did today. Pick up two bank websites or two school websites or any website, then perform recon on it, see what you can achieve using those tools, online tools that we use. Check like the online Mmap tool to check for open ports, check for services, and if they are vulnerable, then report it on your put it on a report and send it to us. So that is the assignment. Is there any question before we drop off?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So when we are finished, we've installed the Metasploitable in our VM.
Yeah.
We'll be using Nmap to scan for vulnerabilities now.
Yeah.
On our Kali.
Yeah. So once you set up, okay. So let me do this. Let me see. Let me see if I. So once you set it up, it will come up like this. Don't forget you already have your Kali set up like this, right? So you guys see we were running an Mmap scan at the time, right? You can see on the assets that we're running. These are some of the reports. So once you set up your Metasploitable, you turn it on. The first thing you use the NetDiscover. Don't forget NetDiscover. -i then the interface ETO, right? It will scan your interface to check for all the IP addresses. So if you're using a modem, all devices connected to that modem, it will scan and discover them, right? Once you discover those IP addresses, then find the one which they locate the one that is for the Metasploit, then run an Mmap scan. You can run an Mmap scan just like we did with -a. You can say I use -a, right? You can say Mmap. See this one that I did. I just have only one port, right? Look at the version that is running. So once you see the version of the service running on it, do a Google on this version and check if it is exploitable, if you can exploit it. Check, for example, using Metasploit. Let me just show you guys. I can copy this out and say, okay, is this exploitable? Can I use Metasploit to exploit it, or is there any other way to exploit it? So I can put it here. You can see that. You can see there's on the exploit DB. A very good place I used to go to is exploit DB or GitHub to see if there's any exploit for it, right? So if there's any exploit for it, read up on it. See, is there a good way? And I want to do this too. Exploit using Metasploit. Okay. So can we exploit this on Metasploit? Okay. So somebody even did the write-up to see how we can exploit this on Metasploit. Read on it, then follow the steps and exploit it. Do we all understand at this point?
Yes. Can I ask again?
Okay.
Yeah. When in checking for vulnerabilities on the Metasploit, we need
Yeah.
to like connect the metasploitable IP with our VM IP for the thing to be connected.
Okay, let me explain to you, right? If you are using a modem, right? Currently, I'm using a modem that is on .8 network. So this is my, let me show you. So if you're using a modem, right, your Kali will pick an IP, so will your Metasploit will pick an IP, from the modem. If you're using your phone network, the same thing, you're using your phone network like an hotspot, right? They will all pick an IP from the phone network, right? So they will all have an IP within that phone network. So my IP address at the moment is for this one is you can see dots. This is the one I was scanning. This is I was scanning my main asset. Now, if you go to my what's it called, my Kali, you will see that my Kali has. Let me show you the IP address of my Kali. So because I'm using a modem, right? So if I do these, come on. Okay, so for my, you can see my Kali is using what .8.102, but my main machine is using .8.101. Then if I spin up my Metasploit, right? My Metasploit should be using I think .3 or so, but I need to find out. Okay, so you can see if I do IP if config, right? Yeah. Do you understand my point? So you can see
Yes.
my Metasploit is using .8.100, right? It's using 8.100. You can see it here. Now, all I need to do is, because I've put on my Metasploit, if I run my net discover again, right? My net discover again against dash I. Oh, sorry, should we do 0? I think I'm pressing the wrong thing. Wow. 0, right? Yeah. So it will scan, and scan for all the IP address. So I'm just assuming that I don't know the IP address, but since I know the IP address of my Metasploit, right? All I need to go, so all I need to do is you can see what's the .100 showing that is a VM, right? Now, since I already know my IP address of my Metasploit, then the next thing for me to do is what? I'll take it, then I'll run what? An mmap scan, right? So like I said, you can run a -A, you can also run a UDP scan so that in case there's any UDP port that is open on it, right? Then you can also run -O means OS detection scan, but -A will do everything. Then you can put default script scan. Default script scan will check if there's any vulnerability. It will just check for basic vulnerability on the operating system. Then you just put your IP address, which is this, what I just copied now, 192.168.A.100, right? Then we're good to go. I think I missed something. Okay, so it should be small x u, so UDP scan, right? So it starts scanning. Then you will see different services running on those on open ports that was discovered. Then you have to start searching on Google, looking at for any exploits that is free and that's easy for you to exploit using your, for example, Metasploit. So if you have any exploits now that you've discovered, all you need to do is open up a new terminal and spin up your Metasploit. I think I've done that already. My Metasploit is open. Let me see. Because of time, let me see, because sometimes it normally take time to open Metasploit. So I don't think I still have it. All right, so I'm just going to open it again. I'll clear the logs. Sorry guys for keeping it because somebody asked me a question. That was a mistake. Okay, so just do MSF console, then you press enter to open your Metasploit, but you need to search out first on Google, see how it can be exploited. Once you discover how you can use Metasploit to exploit the vulnerability, then you cannot follow the guide just because you don't know it all. Somebody has done something out there, so just follow the guide and see how you can exploit it. Push yourself to. That's why I'm giving you this assignment, so that you can see how you can do it on your own. If you have any issue, you can beat me up, right?
Okay, so, sorry, can I ask, last one?
Yeah.
So now that since we are running vulnerabilities on the Metasploit, let's say for example we are running BSTP.
Yeah.
So how do we like submit the assignment? Like how do we like after we run and we found vulnerability, we found the exploit, like how do we now submit?
Yeah, you just need to take a snapshot. Just take a snapshot of what.
Okay, just a snapshot. Okay.
Yeah, just a snapshot. Just take a snapshot of your evidence. So like this, you can just use sniping to take a snapshot. That's all. Take a snapshot. On this phase, I conducted an mmap scan. This is my result. I found out that this particular what's called Microsoft version is exploitable. Then and this is where I searched. I searched on Google, and this is the site I searched. That's all. Then after searching, this is how I'm able to run the exploits, maybe using Metasploitable, like I opened up. So that's it. Just give snapshots. That's all. All right. I think our time is fast spent. I was planning to stop by 6:30, but we've almost used more than another 30 minutes. Kudos to you guys. You guys, thank you for staying up to this time. It's not easy to learn. Like I said, just keep learning, keep growing. I promise you guys, to get your time, it will really pay off. But there's always a time to invest in yourself. And why I'm really pushing you guys to do this yourself, because there's no better way to learn than getting your hands dirty. So that when you get out there to talk, you are convinced if you've done some stuff, you've made a mistake, you've learned from your mistakes. So that's why I really want you guys to put your hands, create out time to practice all these things. After this session, that's the same thing I'm going to do. I'm going to create out time to also do some stuff on my own. So you have to just keep learning, keep learning. All right, guys. I don't want to use past this time, but if you have other questions, you can chat me up. All right. Take care. All right. See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.